forward. So hi, Jace. Thank you so much for offering to do this segment for me about dating in 2022. And I think it's important for people to note that you have not been briefed on the questions prior to. So
Karen,
thank you.
it's great to be here. Thanks very much for having me. And yeah, I have no idea what you're going to ask, so I'm a little we can make it work.
I'm sorry.
We can make it work, I'm sure.
So thank you so much for trusting me and allowing women to get some answers, because as women, we are curious. We don't know. A lot of times it's trial and error. A lot of that leads into heartbreak, and that makes you go through another series of questions. What did I do wrong? What do men want? And so I figured, since I'm fortunate enough to be able to ask people, I would bring that opportunity into other people's homes so that they can have an opportunity to ask through questioning. And I have a list of questions for you. So
cool. So I get to answer for every man in the universe.
Everybody.
Right now. All right. Excellent. I'm sure that I know what every man is thinking.
So you're in a hot seat. So I want to just let everybody know that you are a pastor. And I know I call you Jace, people call you Jace. I know in some other venues, people use pastor or reverend doctor. I know that I could call you reverend doctor, but that's not something you go by. But I wanted to just give people introductions so they'll just know, I guess, who we're talking to. Now, just for the record, how long have you been a pastor?
I've been a senior pastor for about 15 years. I've been in pastoral ministry for probably 26. And yeah, I've been a reverend for 15. I've been a doctor for 12. So I have a PhD in Old Testament. I don't know if you're going to ask any Old Testament questions.
No. We're not going to ask.
Area of expertise I don't get to actually share with you, but that's okay. I have an expertise in dating too.
Yeah. So we're not going to ask anything about theology. I've attended his Tuesday schools. You can run circles around me with theology and scripture, and that's why I enjoy the class. But he's very real and truly a pastor's heart. So I do thank you for allowing me to ask these questions.
My pleasure.
All right. So the first one I would ask is, and that's getting into the whole social media thing. And there was something that I thought was concerning. I noticed a female TikToker said in response, and I know I've thought these things in my life, and I know other people have, and it was a video playing. I guess one of the trends is get in a relationship, you put it on social media. And the response from this TikToker was, God, I see you doing this for so many people. You must have me on block. I know you do. What do we say to the Christian female who feels that the world's having their fun, or maybe this couple were Christian, but they're praying and God hasn't seemed to answer their prayers as far as finding someone special or dating, especially when it's hard?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So we're starting off with real pastor's heart thing.
You can take your time.
Yeah. This is not a new question. There's so many women that are struggling. Valentine's Day comes around and there's nobody or we just had New Year's Eve and there's nobody to kiss at 12. And my heart goes out to them. I'm one of those people. I'm not a female, but I don't have someone in my life that is that. And I often question God about that. I think that's an okay thing to do. I don't think it's okay for us to hate him or start to see him in some way that he's out to get us. But even those sentiments are natural. Like, that's just who we are. We are struggling because the Bible says that God is our Father, and a father would want to take care of us. And he's not only our Father, he's omnipotent. He can do anything he wants. So why would he ever allow our heart to hurt and to not have what we so desperately want? And I don't have an answer for that question. I ask it all the time to God, but I have found that not only is God great, but he's also good. And sometimes he takes us through a wilderness so that we can get to the promised land. And I don't know what that promised land is. The promised land might not be having a husband. I don't want to give any like bumper sticker theologist, if you just stop worrying about it, then God will give you what you want. If you focus on him, then all the other things happen. I can quote verses, seek first the kingdom of God and all the other things will be added. Things don't always work with trite little sayings. There are women who have been waiting for 25 years for the right person. And God hasn't granted that to them. And in theology, we call it the hiddenness of God. Like God's like, hi, you're like, hey, God, I got a question for you. And he's like, like, where are you, for crying out loud? You seem to be there for everybody else. I don't think it's fair for me to come in and say, God will take care of all of this. So I think it's okay for us to just cry. And I think he knows, he hasn't promised us he's going to give us all those things, but he has promised that he'll walk next to us. And that he'll love us through the hard times. And I don't think he's keeping someone from you. If you're listening to this, like he's like, you have to learn more before you can be a good wife. Or maybe you're sinning. And so I'm not going to give you, sure, maybe, but I think just the world sometimes sucks and we don't get the things that we want. People get cancer and people are in car accidents. And I don't think God is planning those things. I think he hurts with us on those things. So I have talked for so many minutes and I've said nothing except for I get it. And I don't have a real answer for that. And hold on, cling to Jesus anyway, even in the midst of the hard. I mean, I can tell you my own stories. I don't know if they're going to show up in here or not, but yeah, I mean, I've had hard too. So I get it. I'll stop there and you can follow up if you have more.
No, it's okay. So I know it's hard because you have people who say, well, just stop looking or, focus on something else, like you said, and that, that doesn't solve the overall question of people saying, God, you mentioned a good part. Are you punishing me? Or do I need to change something? Do I need to learn to be something? And that puts more pressure on the person to really start looking at themselves and questioning, why isn't God answering that prayer?
Yeah, and I think it's okay for us to ask those questions. I just don't think it's okay for us to force the answer being, well, I must be sinning, or I have to change this in my life, or if I just focus on something else. That's the problem. It might be that you should be focusing on something else. It might be that you are living in sin. I just don't think God is vindictive. Like, well, when you finally get it right, then I'll give you the prize. I don't see the loving God that way. I think he wants to please us. And it may be that there's a bigger plan in the works, but I don't know. Knowing that doesn't make my heart stop aching. So I would rather sit in the suckiness of it than try to give some cool theological answer to it.
I think it's a good point that you made, that even as a male, you also have those same feelings, that they're not just related to women, even though this is geared towards women, that men have those same thoughts as well.
Oh yeah, I hope you have questions, because I know men pretty well, and I do a lot of counseling for men, more for men than for women. But yeah, we have the same breakups. We have the same wishes and dreams that we could be married. We have the same like messianic vision, like, oh, if we only had the right person, then our life would be fine again. Or if I only hadn't done that, then I would have had everything that I wanted. I think that almost every day. I wake up every day thinking, I lost this person because I was stupid. I wasn't ready because whatever. If I could just go back and do it again. Yeah, guys are the same. Well, not all guys, but enough of us are the same, that we have those same crushed dreams and those same longings that women have. So.
Thank you for answering that question. So we're going to do another series of Q&A, and we're going to ask another question. What are the qualities of a good man, or the characteristics of a godly man, that women should be looking for?
Wow. Okay. There's a list and it's long. And, the fruits of the Spirit.
Mm.
right? So I'm a pastor, so I'm going back to the Bible. I'm going to say love and joy and peace and patience and goodness and kindness and gentleness, like, and not just those fruits of the spirit, but also the Sermon on the Mountain kinds of questions, right?
Mm.
Which is just a summary of humility and justice and peace.
Mhm.
So, what kind of a man are you looking for? You're looking for a man that is his heart is longing after God.
Mm.
He's a mess, and that's okay because there's no men that aren't messes. But he's a mess who is clinging to Jesus with everything.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that he is going to have all his ethics perfect all the time. It doesn't mean he's not going to flirt with you. It doesn't mean he's not going to be tempted to be sexual with you or to text naughty things or whatever. We can talk about that later too. But
That's
uh,
another question on my list.
okay, yeah, I'm looking for, and let's be real here. Like,
Yeah.
he could be a godly man and still want all of those things and
Mm.
still even go down those roads a little bit.
Mm.
Okay, but let me back up and just stay with the character because you're going to get to the other points. But he's a man who is supposed to love you the way that Christ loved the church, and that means sacrificially.
Mhm.
He's going to give himself up for you.
Mhm.
Now, this isn't just for a man you're looking for to be a husband. This is the kind of person that you're called to be as a woman as well.
Mhm.
It's the same thing that every person is called to be in relation to each other. Will you live a sacrificial life for someone else?
Mhm.
But if you're going to connect with that person and you're going to marry that person, good grief. How will you? Marriage is a pain.
Right.
Marriage is so hard. How will you be able to do that if you are not willing to sacrifice your rights to please that other person?
Mhm.
So it's not just a man's thing, it's a female thing too. Just like, I probably shouldn't mention this. This will get me.
No, you're free to say whatever. I'm gonna take a note that way I'll remember to come back to a point that you made.
Yeah, just like, that Proverbs 31 wife is not about a Proverbs 31 woman. So, all of you ladies out there who are trying to become the Proverbs 31 wife that every man wants, yes, of course, we all want that. But that is not talking about women. That's just a personification of wisdom. So, that's talking about women, it's talking about men, it's talking about what true wisdom looks like.
Mhm.
So, I want a man, this is if I'm a female saying this, I want a man who's wise and who's humble and who is willing to submit to me. And I know maybe that's a weird thing too,
Well,
because
it brings me to another question that I don't have on my list, but I'm going to put it on there. But
okay,
I'll ask you after this one, after you finish your point
all
here.
right. So we'll talk about the submission question. Is that what you're saying?
Well, since we're on that subject,
Okay.
male and female, they meet, they start dating. When is the submission part? I don't want to say have to kick in like it's a do thing, but do you submit to someone because you just met them in a supermarket and called you and you talked a couple times? Like, when do you submit to this person in a relationship?
Yeah. So I think we have this wrong idea of submission in our mind, like it's subjugation somehow, like I'm subject to someone else. That's a misunderstanding, I think, of what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm talking about is giving up your rights, of trying to prefer someone else. So, we think about that Ephesians 5 passage that speaks of men give up love their wives as Christ loved the church. And then we always remember, wives, submit to your husbands. But we forget that the verse right before that says, submit to everyone in all things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this isn't like, well, we met each other in the grocery store, I should submit to you. Well, yes, actually, that's exactly what you should do. We should be submitting to one another. We're preferring someone else. That's what it means. It never means that a woman is subjugated to a man,
Mm-hmm.
like she's somehow unimportant or he is the guy who makes the rules in the family. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We are supposed to be submitting to one another all the time. So if you're finding a man who is demanding that he is the leader and that you are to submit to him, this is a man, I don't think, who has any understanding of what it means to be a man. And you need to run away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he might think that he's the leader of the home, and you might prefer a leader of the home. That is fine. That is a beautiful thing. That's a traditional way of understanding things, even those texts in the Bible. If you want to run your family as where he makes kind of how the preferences are, the directions that the place that your family will go, that's fine. Go for it. If you guys are comfortable with that. I don't think that's mandated by scripture. So we have to get into some exegesis of Ephesians and some other texts like that. But all I want to say is in the character part, you're looking for what kind of man you're looking for. You're looking for a man who will care about you to the point that he will subject himself to hurt on your behalf. Like he loves you. He's a grown-up. He'll give up his rights. He'll argue with you because he wants to he wants to come up with a good solution or a good answer, and you guys disagree, but he's going to submit. He's going to say, you know what? In the end, I don't have to be right about this. I just want to care about you. And the bar is so low for men right now. Like a man who just has basic character, like he's a decent guy and he doesn't kill people, and women are like, oh, nice. Yeah. We'll take this guy. And then they trick themselves into thinking that he's their knight in shining armor. I wish I could I do teach classes on what it means to be a man. Just the character that should be there. And women, can I please beg you, stop just giving in to men because you need one. There are good men out there. There really are. Wait for them. They don't have to be perfect men, but there are men of character, men of courage, men who will love you and who are adults who are wise. All right, I'll be quiet.
So what?
I feel like I could go on and on and on about that kind of stuff.
I brought you here because you talk candidly and you're very real. I know there's a point of that. Someone probably wants me to touch on about the perfection, but I'm going to come back to that because I know the new age dating is now, it's like the men want to be courted. That's the new 2020 thing. So it's this thing where we're walking into not me, but we're walking into a situation equal. I want to see what you have to offer, what you bring to the table. And before I decide to court you, it's not something I'm engaging in, but it's something that, the new world of dating has started. So with the thing about sacrifice and submission, if you're dating in 2022 and that's the sort of the way things are now, how does submission apply to, hey, this person wants to go out with me first, or before they decide to court, or before we decide to officially date? Where does submission really come into that situation? That might be a loaded question, but I think you're following what I'm saying.
I'm actually not sure I am following what you're saying. I certainly understand 2022 is weird, like this new world of dating, especially for, I'm guessing most of your listeners are going to be not 18-year-old women.
I don't know. Hopefully it'll be all of them, but I'm getting older, so.
All right. Well, I'm talking more to the dating again women, women who knew how they were supposed to date 30 years ago. And now things are just different. Now you're expected to be a completely different kind of woman in this modern world. But please ask your question about submission again there.
So I guess with this like a delayed period of dating where people are getting to know each other first before they decide to court. That seems to be what I've heard a lot from the male perspective. I've heard men say, let me get to know you before I invest in you. I guess to put it in a different way, how should the Christian woman respond to that if her ideals are more old-fashioned?
Well, I think it's perfectly fine for someone to date to get to know each other. That makes perfect sense. So I don't know that it would be any different than your courting time, though, necessarily. This terminology, this courting idea is kind of comes out of the purity culture 30 or 40 years ago. I don't know a lot of Christians who are doing courting anymore, but maybe they are. Maybe we need to talk about that a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome to talk about it.
Like courting or dating, whatever you want to call it, the point is to get to know people and to find out if maybe there's something for the future, right? And you're doing that until you decide to put a ring on that person's finger, right? So it's the same thing. That's all you're ever doing. You're always... But if you mean exclusive versus non-exclusive, maybe that's what you're referring to, like that time of non-exclusivity where you're just kind of dating around.
Let's put it in that context.
All right, and then you say, okay, now I want to, like, I'm going to focus on you, but I'm not engaged. I'm going to focus on you. Okay. So these are just steps that you're taking towards marriage, maybe.
Mhm.
So again, I think the submission, I'm not saying submission looks different in any of in any of those steps any of those phases.
Mhm.
Submission is about giving up your rights for someone else. I would do that with you as somebody that I've actually never even met, right?
Mhm.
Except for on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Hopefully I would give up my rights for you because I prefer you to me.
Mhm.
I prefer, if I'm dating somebody, I'm sitting in a restaurant for the first time, I'm going to prefer that person. If we're courting, like the intention is that I'm going to one day ask you to marry me, then I'm still going to submit. And when I'm married to you, I'm still going to submit. Like that's part of being human, I think.
Mhm.
And I feel like we've forgotten that part.
Mhm. So what about that stage prior to that, I guess is what where I started the question, where you're talking to someone or dating other people, assuming that's the sort of dating situation. I know some people just date one person, but there are many people who date multiple people before deciding to date that person.
Mhm.
How does submission apply to that if the person's going out with someone else next weekend?
Again, I mean, I was trying to make that clear. I don't care which phase you're in, or even if you're not dating that person yet. The part of being human is being submissive, is trying. And I don't submissive again. Remember, it's not a negative word. It just means I prefer you over me. Like
Mhm.
I don't have to win. I'm not trying to compete against you. I just want to show you love.
Mhm.
So if I'm completely not exclusive, like this is what I am, right? I'm dating different women right now. Okay, I
Mhm.
go out on a date here, I go out on a date there, I talk to a new woman, I get rid of that woman, I move on to another one. I'm not even close to, by the way, ladies that are listening to me, I'm not some kind of womanizer or anything. I'm just, I'm on some dating apps, we're chatting, and then I realize that's not a good situation for me and I move on to something else. So, but I hopefully will always submit in the sense that I want to prefer them
Mhm.
in every situation, even if I've only just talked to them one time via text,
Mhm.
or I meet them in the grocery store,
Mhm.
or if it's a male, not
Mhm.
even a female, like I'm not even looking for a romantic relationship. I want to be a good human.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to prefer someone else to me. That's what Philippians 2 is about, right? Humility
Mhm.
is preferring someone else.
I can appreciate that. I think I'm going to process that just for my own self and just who I am and being human in general. I think I haven't really heard it from that perspective before. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So how should a Christian woman deal with being alone or feeling alone? I know we kind of mentioned that in the first question, but what I guess what would be some coping skills or ways to deal with processing being alone?
Wow. So I don't know that I can speak for women
Mhm.
specifically on this case. I thought I was going to speak universally for mankind.
Oh, as a
Not,
pastor.
yeah,
That's the
so
pastor piece.
I'll just speak for men, like in this, because I assume it's the same kind of situation.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that I'm good at this at all, but I, I do think we need to sit with Christ.
Mhm.
So going back to that first thing, I think we need to rest in Him and trust that He's got our best interests in mind.
Mhm.
And that's gonna like. There's no. By the way, there's probably no definite answer for any of your questions. Everything is going to be unique to the individual.
Right.
So if I'm doing counseling for a female, I might counsel one female in one direction, another female in another direction. Both of them might be right for who they are.
Right.
So I don't pretend that there's one way to feel alone and to allow yourself to be alone.
Mhm.
Some of you might need to spend the next couple months distracting yourself. Like I know I read enough Facebook memes and things like that. Like we got to get rid of the distractions and just focus.
Yeah.
Some of you just need some time. And so you need to distract yourself so a little bit of time can go by so you can get over whatever hurt that you have had or the frustration of got whatever those things are. Other people, I would say, you need to stop distracting yourself with TikTok and with I don't know movies or books or anything, and you need to focus more on prayer. I
Mhm.
just I just don't think there's one answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me, I needed a time of distraction
Mm-hmm.
after my breakup.
Mm-hmm.
It was super painful.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to distract myself. I needed to get out of where I was at and move to another place, which I did. And it was very helpful. I
Mm-hmm.
also know that I took 3 months off of Facebook and Instagram and any kind of social media because I thought that I might be using that to give me the endorphins, the likes, the that allowed me to get through. And I
Mm-hmm.
was starting to get addicted to that, so I needed to back off of that because I know that I like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I want. It's why I get on dating apps,
Mm-hmm.
right? So of course I'm hoping that I'll find somebody, but it's also because I want to know that I'm wanted,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is just Facebook. It's just saying we like what you're doing, good job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dating app. Oh, we like what you look like. We like what you wrote in your profile. Oh, good. Now I feel better about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you don't. But
Mm-hmm.
never. I mean, you always need to rest in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like for you. If that's
Mm-hmm.
meditation, if that is spending time with family and having them push you to Jesus, certainly spending time with the church, all the spiritual disciplines that you hear about, solitude and silence and prayer and fasting and minimalism and all those things are very helpful, I think, depending on the circumstance. So I'm not going to pretend to answer that for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I think you gave a wonderful answer, though. I think that being still and taking that time. I know, I tell people put a lot of pillows on. You need a lot of pillows on your bed sometimes. If you're worried about the bed being too big, maybe I have about 20. I'm up to about 20 now. But hey, it's what works. I think you gave a good answer. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to the next question. And how? Okay, hold on. And I know you're answering as far as how, I'll just answer the question.
Okay.
Why do so many men marry women outside of the church who do not appear saved or appear less holy?
Why do so many Christian men marry non-Christian women? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't want to say they're not Christian, but there are, and I've seen this multiple times throughout all the decades that I've been living. You'll see a woman, she sits at church, she's on the ministry, she sings, she does whatever, she goes to Bible study, and then this man comes into church with a woman who doesn't even appear to be, I guess, living as holy, whether it's clothing or whatever, lifestyle, whatever. The woman questions, do men really want Christian women? They say they do, but then they go out and get someone else. Most recently, it might be a controversial subject, but there's a pastor who's now going through a divorce. He married, I guess, a celebrity female. I won't say their names. I guess Megan Good and her husband. I know you don't know who they are, but I remember when they first got married, and he's a pastor, and she's an entertainer in it, and it's in those situations, not her situation specifically, but I know in church you do see men who said they're looking for a Christian woman and have the standard, but then they come into church with someone that doesn't fit that mold. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not judging because I probably would be in some or have been in that category before. But what that brings a lot of women to the question of what do you really want?
Yeah. So what do men really want? Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I want people to hear it from a male's perspective.
Well, the answer to the question is not an answer, it's a response. It's not like it's the final answer, and every man is different.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, I mean, we just play with ideas. Maybe maybe the woman really is a good Christian woman, and that, we're the women who are sitting in there looking at this man who brought in this person that they don't like very much. It might be all in their head. First of all, they're just offended that that person didn't like them when they came on to them or something like that. So let's not let women off the hook completely for this and put it all on the men. Sometimes we just aren't attracted to you and we're looking for something else. However, there are a lot of men who say that they want Christian women, but they don't, right? And honestly, I mean, who wants those men anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that just tells you everything you need to know. But there's also the problem of guys are looking, we're looking for a wife. We're looking for someone to spend our life with. And we meet somebody at church who is a nice person, but they are filled with all kinds of wrong ideas about dating,
Mhm.
and they too are trapped in that purity culture of 30 years ago. And they not only are they not going to have sex before marriage, which I don't know if we're going to talk about or not, but because I haven't seen
It
the
may
list of.
be a question in worded
Okay.
in a different way, but it's
Right. So not
we'll
not
preach.
only not only are they not going to do that, they're not going to flirt in any way. They're not going to show that they're interested in any way. If he's the right person for me, then God will just bring him to me and it'll be just this perfect union of us skipping through the daisies. And you're like, he has no hormones, there's no sensuality to it. Like, it might be that he's a Christian and he's still horny. Can I say that here?
Yeah, so we're
Okay.
gonna have you here to.
Yeah,
I've gotten some advice from you, so I know
I
how
know, I know. But when you and I are talking personally, I can say whatever I want, but I don't know, what you want
yeah,
on the air.
freedom to speak.
So I think women sometimes live in a world that is just not where men live.
Mhm.
Men are thinking about those things. They're looking for you to show interest. There also might be these women who are like, well, I can't make the first move.
Mhm.
And so they just sit and wait and they won't even show any kind of interest. And the guy's like, okay, well, if they're not showing any interest whatsoever, I'm going to go find somebody who is interested. So we
Mhm.
come to the church and we've got a bunch of goody two shoes who say that they want a good guy, but they only want him to lead. Maybe he's shy. I don't know. There's a thousand different reasons why guys choose someone else. Maybe that woman was nice enough to walk up in the grocery store and say, you know, I've seen you in here before and you seem pretty awesome. I'd love to take you to lunch.
Mhm.
Right. And he's like, wow, someone paid attention to me. This is great. And then they went to lunch and they fell in love. And honestly, there's a lot of men who we say we want Christian. And by Christian, all we mean is we want someone who isn't a Mormon, isn't a Muslim, isn't I don't know, a Jewish person, right? It isn't one of those things. So they check the right box, but we don't
Mhm.
really want a woman who is seeking after Jesus with her whole heart.
Mhm.
That is scary to us, maybe,
Mhm.
which
And
is
that is
sad. Again, real men should be wanting a woman who finds another man more attractive than them. That is, who's more interested in Jesus than she is in us.
mhm. So that brings you to another question, because I believe in my mind that last portion that you mentioned is, maybe that person's more fun and maybe they're not where they may say they are, maybe where they want to be, but they're looking for other things. So since you brought it up, what does scare men? What scares men away? You
um,
mentioned a woman can ask you out. I know some men are different, but what scares me?
yeah, I feel like I have to caveat this every single time. There's men that are very different than me. So I'm an introvert. I'm shy. So someone who is too overbearing is going to scare me away, and someone who is too shy is going to scare me away.
Interesting.
So there are things that'll scare me away. So a woman. Well, I mean, we're being as blunt as we can possibly be, right?
Mhm.
So a woman who has talked to me for one day on a text, who wants to send me pictures of her naked body, that'll scare me away.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not saying that I don't want that. Of course I want that. I'm a guy. I like the female form. Yes, please. But that isn't somebody that I want to be with forever who's going to start showing me that after one day.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's too much.
Mhm.
Someone scare me away if they're already talking about marriage within a couple of days.
Mhm.
That'll scare me away. That's just too early.
Mhm.
Um, Somebody who never flirts with me at all, but only wants to get to know my heart. That'll scare me away. Or not
Really?
scare me away. It'll send me running.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Can you
I'm not
explain that?
interested in somebody who just wants to know all the things about me, but doesn't want to play with me at all. Like I want someone who's playful. And that doesn't necessarily mean sensual. That doesn't, she doesn't have to be sexting me. That's not what I mean at all there. I
Mhm.
just mean natural flirtation. Just like, hey, I'm interested in you. Show me you're interested. Don't just find out a whole bunch of facts about me. I want to see is there some kind of chemistry going on here.
Mhm.
And so, and the way you respond back and forth, is there going to be some sarcastic play? Is there going to be maybe some innuendos that are just barely there? That for me, that's fun. That's my particular kind of person, though.
Mhm.
Somebody else might not like any of that.
Mhm.
So, for instance, I never start any of those things. I won't
Mhm.
start those things with a woman unless it's going for a long time and I realize, okay, this is not going to go anywhere. I might as well give it a chance. I'm going to make some kind of innuendo, play a little bit, and see what happens.
Nothing else to lose, right? At that
Because
point.
I don't, because as it is, I don't care about the relationship because it's not going anywhere.
Right.
So let's see if it can go somewhere. If it doesn't, then I'll just close it down right away.
Mhm.
So those are a few things that will send me running. Obviously, to send me running if they're not a Christian, if they just check the Christian box,
Mhm.
that'll scare me away. If they have, this is all preference though, right? If they don't care about fitness at all, that'll scare me away.
Mhm.
If they're not ambitious, they're just looking for somebody to take care of them and use their money. I'm not interested. Family, they don't have family. A family at heart, right? They're not that kind of woman. So
Mhm.
it might be hard for me to date someone who has never had children
Mhm.
or doesn't want them. That would be a weird thing for me.
Mhm.
So I have my list, but I'm so different than so many other men.
Mhm.
They would look at my list and say, that's ridiculous. I don't care about that.
Mhm.
So
I think they might give or take a couple of things, but I still think that universally, there's a lot of similarity with the way women are wired and the way men are wired.
yep,
And
absolutely.
we have the same questions. We have, similar needs basically, and so do you guys.
Yep.
So thank you for that answer. So that brought up a question about, I guess, uh, the friend zone and how long you wait. So we'll start with the friend zone. And should a woman be friends with a man if he's not ready to commit? Should she invest her time if she feels as though he may commit later, but right now he's not?
I don't think there's a should or shouldn't. This is just a question of wisdom. As all of my answers are going to be, this is not an ethical kind of a question. This is just in my particular situation, is this good? So I wish that the last person well, that's not really fair. Let me stop that one.
I can edit
Um,
that out. I'll edit that out. Go ahead.
well, I'm happy to talk about my relationships, but that doesn't really fit the question as clearly as I was trying to get to it.
Hmm.
So friend zone. Yeah, I have several females that are friends of mine, and I think that's fine. My guess is that some of them are interested in hoping that it goes further. Some of them have even told me
Hmm.
they're hoping that it goes further, and I've just let them know I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still hurting. I'm still in a place. Now, if they can't handle that, like they should know themselves. They should have a group of peers around them that can help them figure that kind of thing out.
Hmm.
And maybe they'll say, you know what, this guy is a really good guy. He's just a little broken right now, like all of us are. I'll give this 6 months.
Hmm.
And after all, they're just friends. So you're not really giving it anything. So what would be the problem? They could
Hmm.
still go on their dating apps. They can still go on dates, but they could be friends. And in the background, even thinking, who knows what God might do at some
Hmm.
point. I don't know why that would be bad. Males and females can be friends. I have lots of good female friends.
I guess it's the overall, like for instance, they say a man meets a woman, he knows exactly what he's looking for. So when you look at that context, does this male really know that she isn't really he's looking for, and stringing her along, or just willing to, allow her to be a placeholder in a sense, or just, allow her to fill a gap in his life until who he wants comes along.
Well, they probably shouldn't stick around for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if the
Wonderful
male
to know.
if the man has made clear that you're not the kind of person that he wants, but that he's happy to hang around with you and be your friend, then you're just going to have to make that decision. Like, okay, I know that there's no future for me. Do I just want to be his friend?
But I don't think there are men who quite put it that way. I mean, you may have some, but I think a lot of people just say, hey, I want to be friends. I'm not ready to commit. Does that woman, should she stay in that situation? Because I believe by first experience and just, just knowing that it probably means he's ready to settle down, but not with you. But I know that women do ask that question. Should I invest in friendship? Now I have seen, exceptions to the norm where women were friends with someone for years and they end up, person wants to settle down and he picks a friend. I don't think that happens most of the time. So in asking a question from a male's perspective, I know a lot of women ask that question.
Yeah, I don't think I would change my answer to that. I really think uh, you have to know what he's thinking.
Mhm,
So I think it's fair for a woman to ask, like, if
mhm,
she's really looking for a relationship with him, like, let me just ask you this. Let's say 3 years from now, you're not broken anymore. Am I the kind of person that you would want?
mhm,
I think if we can have those kinds of conversations, life would be so much easier.
mhm,
Because it shouldn't make that woman feel bad if you're not. Like, I might not want to go out with this person because I just like, maybe I'm just not as attracted to them. Maybe I'm looking for something different. It doesn't that shouldn't offend someone. I
mhm.
mean, it shouldn't. I know it often does. We
Yeah,
all feel like
yeah.
we're not good enough or something like that. But that's not it necessarily. There are people that I'm attracted to and people I'm not. It doesn't mean they're not good enough.
Mhm, mhm,
So yeah, I think that's just up to the woman. Yes, a lot more women should run from those kinds of relationships if they're hoping that there's going to be a relationship and they should see there's not.
mhm,
So again, it's good to have a church around you
mhm.
or people who are Christians who see the world the way you do and can help you, because we get all googly eyed, right? We're like, oh
Yeah,
my goodness, this is the right person. And he doesn't feel the same way.
right,
We need some girlfriends to say, look, he doesn't care about you.
right,
He just wants to have you as a friend, or he wants to fool around,
right,
right? Friends with benefits,
right.
which again, I mean, we're all like that. We all kind of want to do that. But I would scream out to the guys, can you just be honest?
Mhm,
Like, if you want friends with benefits, say that's what you want. I'm not arguing about ethics or anything else like that right now as to whether that's even okay. I'm just saying, like, just say it. Like, I'm not ready to be in a relationship, but I kind of want the fringe benefits that go along with friendship. And then let her figure that out.
right.
Like, hopefully she'll be wise
Mhm.
if she has people around her to help her.
So that
So,
brings me to my next question. At which stage of meeting someone is it safe to have those conversations? Let me just make sure the volume is good on my, yep. At what
yep.
stage of meeting someone is it safe to have that conversation and ask those questions?
Um, there's no answer to this, as I say at the beginning of everything. It's all about wisdom.
That goes
Uh,
back to that scaring question. Or the
yeah,
maturity of the person. I can say that, or maybe the age sometimes as well.
yeah. I guess you should be able to have people around you to help you figure that kind of stuff out.
Mhm,
I just these aren't some of these questions are just not there's not going to be a universal answer to them.
mhm.
So some people you can have that conversation on the first date.
Yes.
You just hit it off with that person and you are like great friends and you're laughing and having a good time. And you're like, you know what? Uh, I got a question for you. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? You can be having like super intimate conversations after 45 minutes. What do you think about sex before marriage? What do you think about having children? Maybe that works. And that might scare some guys away. It
Mhm,
might scare some women away.
mhm,
Just that's a wisdom kind of question. Like, where am I in this relationship?
mhm.
So, obviously, if you've been going out with somebody for a year and you're not able to have any kind of intimate conversations that like you're always worried about what you're going to say, that's not the right person for you.
Right.
You should be able to communicate pretty quickly
Mhm,
if you're going to be in a relationship with that person.
mhm. Now I notice current, I guess it's more, I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's a new thing. It's all about a vibe and not necessarily about how you think on paper or however you would like to put it. It's about how things are feeling, how much fun are we having, how are we connecting. So I think that the questions, I think is really an individual thing as far as I see it as a woman in my experience. There are people who maybe a lot older and don't want to waste their time. they might present that question. But if someone's used to dealing with that, and are dating in this new age, for some men that could be scary. So I think that people are stuck in when to gauge, and I think there are also in things I read and conversations I've had with people where people are scared to mention it, thinking it's going to scare someone away.
Well, if it scares someone away,
They're not.
yeah, that's not the right
Not
person.
it.
Like if you feel like you're ready to have that conversation and they're not, but sometimes I feel like you can take care of a lot if you're just completely authentic and vulnerable. You can say, look, I know this conversation might scare you away. If you're not quite ready for it, that's fine. I can wait a little while longer, but here's just a couple of questions that I've really had. I give you full permission to put this on the back burner for another, whatever, 2 weeks or something, another month. I don't know. Don't make rules up. But by letting them know you want to have a particular conversation, now they have to make a decision. Okay, in the next however many days, do I want to have this kind of conversation with this person? And if I don't, I mean, hopefully that tells you something. Maybe they're not ready for that. And maybe you're not ready to be in a relationship with them.
Or maybe there's some communication. Some communication skills might need to be developed.
Yeah, at least those are small red flags.
So the next question, I guess, would be right in line with that is, what should a woman do when a man ghosts? Which, for those who don't know, that's a new way of someone just not answering ever again, not taking your phone calls, disappearing.
Okay, this one's gonna be a universal, like this is not a wisdom kind of thing. If a man ghosts you, you move on. There it is. That's that simple. I mean, ghosting doesn't mean that they are not talking to you. It means that you have reached out to them and they are purposefully not responding. So if you've been talking and it just starts to die out on its own, and then they haven't talked in a few days, that doesn't mean they've ghosted you. You also haven't talked in a few days. But if you write them and say, hey, it's been a couple of days, how are you doing? And they don't respond. And then you write them again the next day and say, just curious, maybe you're done, or maybe something's wrong. You know where I'm at if you want to talk to me, and you don't hear from them. That's it. It's done, right? Now they've ghosted you. Maybe they have a reason for doing it, like their phone has been found at the bottom of the ocean and they'll get back to you in a few days, in which case, when they get back to you, you'll be gracious. You'll understand the reason, and that's fine. But probably they've just decided this isn't going to work, and that's their cowardly way out. Well, you've learned all you need to know. Run away. Run away.
So to your point earlier, which was one of my questions that we kind of talked about, is how should a woman respond when a man asks for a selfie or sends a naked picture instead of communication?
Okay, those are two absolutely different questions.
Let's put that question A, question B.
Okay, if a man asks for a selfie, why would you not send him a selfie? That seems fine. Okay. He's interested in what you look like. He's not asking for anything freaky, crazy, anything like that. And all of these questions depend on at what point in the conversation or the relationship are we asking for things.
Okay. Now I'm going to assume this is someone who's been dating for, at least I hope, dating at least for, I'm going to say introductory period to second level. I don't know. But, I know that we're in an age where you can meet people and they send you a selfie. Unfortunately, and I'm talking about in the kingdom of God too, you can meet people and next thing you know, you check your phone and the person could receive, a male or female can receive a lascivious picture. So what would be the proper Christian response to that in the beginning of a relationship as well as sometime into the relationship? Let's just be fair on both ends.
Okay, so we've moved away from just the plain old selfie. Now we're talking about something that's purposefully sensualized.
Yes.
And I guess what we're talking about now is, like, again, I'm not convinced that there's an ethical, this is the way it has to be done. Rather, I think this is a question of wisdom. So if you've been talking for 3 or 4 days and they're asking for naked pictures, then you should probably walk away. Like, that's
right.
Now, if they're flirting with you and they're saying how much they'd like that, I mean, you really have to, so much of this is about feel, right? Because even good Christian guys want to see you, right? They want to enjoy. I mean, I'm guessing this will be a major theme in this particular episode anyway.
That's why I said it towards, it wasn't in the
they're,
beginning of the segment.
they're sexual, right? They want that. So I don't think women should, as soon as a guy asks for something, they should just be done with him. They should get the point. Like, if we like you, we want to play. We just want to play. So I would say give them grace, but also there's a time and a place for that.
Mhm.
And every Christian woman is going to have a different time and place for that.
Mhm.
The man doesn't know what that time and place is. His might be different. So in our current Christian society, it is fully expected that women and men will have sex before they're married. They will have sex before they're married. I honestly know only a couple of people, and I have dated a lot.
Mhm.
Only a couple of people who have waited.
Mhm.
Okay? They just don't. So let's not talk about the ethics of that unless you want to get into that later.
No,
But
no.
you need to expect that a man is going to want that. And a man, if any men are listening to this, you should expect that a woman is going to want that. Like that's just the world we live in. And if we're not doing all of that, then we're going as far as we can and feeling comfortable, feeling Christian, whatever our ethics tell us that we can do,
Mhm.
because we all want to have fun. And it's fun to touch someone's body. Let's just be really honest here, right? It's fun to play. So trying to move away from just sex itself to the picture thing, it makes sense that we want to be titillated. We want our eyes, our hearts, our body parts. We want to excite ourselves. So ladies, please know that just because he's asking for something like that, he might still be a good and godly man. That's okay. If you feel like he's further down that road than you want to be, then just be honest with him. Now, I just say, look, I'm not that person. Like, I'm planning on not having sex before I'm married. I'm not ever going to plan on sending you a picture like that. Are you at all interested in continuing to talk to me? I'm not going to be doing that. And then you're going to find out what kind of a person he is.
Mhm.
And he may be a perfectly good person and just say, I don't think I can handle a year of dating and not playing, not having any kind of flirtation, not having any kind of pictures, not having any kind of sensual touching. And then he'll just say, I'm just going to move on to somebody else. He might be a good guy. Maybe he needs those things, and maybe his ethical, where he's at, is different than yours.
Mhm.
So I want to say, women, it's really not that hard, right? Just be honest and tell them this is not what you're interested in doing. Now,
Mhm.
if he says, okay, that's fine, let's keep talking, and then every single day he's still asking you for those pictures, I mean, maybe you know what he has on his mind more than anything else.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
we all have that on our mind, ladies. We all have that on our mind all of the time, and we're not evil. This is the way God has made us, and I'm not going to really apologize for it. We are interested in that. It's a matter of whether we have enough discipline and care for the person and for God's rules, whatever we think they are, as we understand Scripture, to prefer her. And we have to prefer her. Like that's. So I take chances. I cross little lines in flirting with girls that some girls think is not okay and they move on, and other girls think you're not moving fast enough.
Right.
I'll never know. Every woman is different.
Mhm.
So I'm super honest with people. I'm like, okay, just let me know. So I'm a sensual guy. Just let me know if I'm crossing a line, because I want to respect you more than anything else.
Mhm.
And my crossing the line might be, I would love to just see a picture of you in that dress. Right. And some women are like, I can't believe you. I'm like, it's just you're in a dress, like,
Just address, right?
right. I'm not saying that I'm looking for, topless pictures of women I'm just saying everyone is going to have a different line. I'm not always speaking for myself here. Everyone has a different line.
So the bikini pic, show me a bikini pic. It seems to be a very popular one. I think that women here from maybe, I don't want to say the bad guy, but it's a popular question.
It's a fine question. It's a fine question. If you're not comfortable with it, just let them know. I'm not comfortable with giving you a bikini pic. Okay, done. Good enough. A guy should be able to be fine with that. But there's nothing wrong with asking for one. He's attracted to the female form and he's trying to get to know you.
So do you feel like that's a way of testing though, to see where this woman is, to see what type of woman she is, see if she gives it to me, then she must be X, Y, and Z. If she doesn't give it to me, then she must be more of something else.
Maybe some guys are going to.
Okay.
Yep,
I'm
absolutely.
putting my spin on it.
They could be testing, but they might be testing in a simpler way. Like, I just want to find out what kind of person this is. And I'm not offended either way. We're all getting closer and closer to whatever it is we're looking for, marriage and sex and all those things. So he might be testing her. It's all this crazy game that we're playing, trying to find that line that is comfortable for both of us and cares for the other person. And we don't know what that is. I don't even know what that is for myself. With some people, I feel more comfortable right away, being a little bit more flirty. Others, we stay at a very intellectual level. But I'm not interested in someone who never flirts. I think I told you that, right? I want to have fun with this. Even if we have everything in common, they're Bible nerds and, the church is their life, etc. That if they're not willing to flirt and play with me a little bit, I'm going to move on. So if I ask for a bikini picture after, I don't know, a month of talking, and they're like, I can't believe you would say anything like that. Okay, well, that's not my kind of person. If they cut right back and say, maybe I'll give you a bikini picture next week or something like that, then they're being flirty. They're playing a little bit with me. So I'm going to make decisions based on what their personality is. I don't want a woman who's going to be a prude. Right? I don't want to be in a marital relationship where I'm wondering whether they're ever going to have sex with me. And if it's starting early, like they have nothing to play with at all, I'm just concerned about that. So
they call that the previous, not the sexual part, but the previous connection. They're calling it a vibe now. So about the vibe and whether or not you're connecting and getting along and can have fun and laugh and enjoy each other's energy and space. That's right. That's the word for it now.
Well, that's not a new word for it. That's the same word when I was dating when I was 18. Yeah. Right. Even the Beach Boys, good vibration.
I like that.
It's just, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So that brings me to my next question, which is a little sexual oriented, but it's pretty much in line with what you just said. The next question is, I want to wait till marriage, but I want to test it out first. Will God still bless the relationship?
Wait, I want to wait till marriage, but I want to test it out first?
Okay, so this person, obviously, you're not supposed to fornicate according to the Bible principle. We know that. But I've talked to people who feel like I'm not buying a car if I didn't drive it first. I'm going to be with this car forever. I want to know, is it going to break down on me? How does this thing drive? I don't want to invest and find out there's some issues that I wasn't aware of. So with that in mind, we know the perfect answer and the perfect question. But the question is, will God still bless the relationship? I'm not sure if that's a question that you can answer, but that is a question that was asked.
Yeah. So I don't know what God's going to do about relationships, but I don't really think of him sitting up there waiting for us to mess up so that he can mess up our relationships. My picture of God is so very gracious and loving. I think that if you are persuaded that you should not have sex before marriage, if you think that's what the Bible says and that's God's will for you, then you should not be trying it out first. Okay, that's a sin, because that's how that's how you're saying this is a sin, but it's worth it for me to do it because I want to try it out first. I think that's a mistake. I think you are purposefully saying, I'm going to go against God's rules so that because I think my rules are better. That's the Adam and Eve story, right? I'm going to take the fruit even though he said not to, because I think I know better, and I don't want to be in the sexual relationship with somebody who's not very good at it, or
That's pretty much.
or whatever. Trust me when I say, like, everybody is equally good at it. If they love one another and they're willing to communicate, they will learn how to connect to each other. They just will. There's nobody who's given less abilities in that area. That has to do with confidence and, well, whatever. You don't have to test it out.
Okay.
I think that's just, yeah, please don't do that. I'm not even saying that you shouldn't test it out. I'm saying if that's your view, that you shouldn't have sex before marriage, then you shouldn't test it out, because that's your view. Don't sin on purpose because you think something else is better. Don't do that. That's crazy. You seek God in everything.
Okay. Next question. Are you ready for that one?
Yes,
This
I
one isn't
am.
bad. So make sure you're ready to move on for that one. Should I tell the person I am dating about all of my sexual experiences? We're talking about Christian here. That's the segment we're in. So
Yep.
should I tell him about all my experiences?
Do they want to know?
They ask.
Okay, then yes.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, it depends on where you are in the relationship and what they're asking. If you've been dating for a week and they want to know all of your sexual forays, you know, maybe you're not ready for that. You're like, but then just be honest. Just say, you know what? After we've dated for a couple more weeks and I feel a little more comfortable, I'm happy to share that stuff with you.
Okay. So
I don't think a woman should keep a secret from somebody who she wants to continue in a relationship with. It's just a matter of when that information is to be shared.
So at some point before they're married, this should be disclosed, or
assuming that he wants that to be disclosed. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I see no reason. I think if he wants anything disclosed, you should disclose it. I don't see any reason to keep a secret from him that he's asking for. Like, if you're engaged, if you are heading towards marriage and he wants to know those things, then you should tell him. Even if it brings great shame to you. Some of it you might be proud of, some of it you might be ashamed of. Just be honest.
So at what point in the relationship or dating situation should this conversation take place? If presumably, let's make male or female, we're talking on a female segment here mainly, but if the person, male or female, asks, when would be the most appropriate time?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Again, that's going to be just a feel for the woman. I don't think there's a wrong time. Again, if he asks after, he's been texting you for 3 days and you haven't talked on FaceTime or met or anything like that, and he wants to know all of your sexual past, I wouldn't give him any of that stuff. Just like I'm not even sure I would give him my Facebook account. Like, you don't know him well enough for that. But if you're in an exclusive relationship with him and you've been intimate, and I don't mean sexually, but intimate with this person, you love this person, I think it's okay. I mean, it's okay for him to ask that, and it's okay for you to say you're not ready, or you are ready. Like, just good grief. Sometimes it's so simple as just being honest. I'm not ready to share that information yet. Okay. At some point you should.
I think, in all fairness to the person asking the question, I think that people, whether they've done things in Christ, just did what they wanted to do, or whether they had experiences before coming to Christ, and some of the sexual norms these days are so different that they may not know if that person can handle or want to settle down with that person based upon the experiences that they've had. So in the spirit of fairness, I want to make, obviously we're not just talking about, hey, I had an ex-boyfriend for 6 years. I think it's probably more involved than something that we're thinking on a more basic level.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how long should a couple date before marriage?
I don't think there's a time. So are they, have they been divorced? Is the divorce over and done with and the feelings are more or less gone? Um, there's so many questions to ask in this. The
Mhm.
answer might be 10 years or it might be 10 months.
Mhm.
Um, if you're 18, you might want to wait a few extra years. If you're 45, then you might not want to wait that long.
So the
So
con go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, my girlfriend wanted to get married, and I couldn't. I don't know why. I wasn't there yet. I hadn't gotten to that spot. I loved her intensely. Like, I truly loved her, and I would have been happy with her. And looking back, I was a fool. Like, I should have. It had been 3.5 years.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not young. She's not young. She's got kids. And I don't want to say more about her because she's married and she's happy and she's nothing.
Right.
But as an example, right? I wasn't ready and she was. So there's no answer to that.
Mhm.
There's again bringing people around you that can help you see clearly, that you don't sit around and wait. And my guess is that people were around her that helped her see clearly that I wasn't going to be ready anytime soon and that she wanted to have a husband.
Mhm.
So she took that as her, like, okay, you're not going to do this. I'm going to move on.
Mhm.
And as crushing as that is for me or for other men that's happened to, um, it was probably wise.
Mhm.
I hate to say that. That's why I say I was the fool.
Mhm.
I, I could have had everything I wanted, but I wasn't. I
Mhm.
wasn't ready for it.
Mhm. Now, being fair, I just want to make sure that people know that you were grieving um, through the loss of a spouse and that you weren't just a happy bachelor for many years, not wanting to settle down. I just want to make that clear because someone might be listening and may not understand the history prior to that. So, with all due respect to your spouse or previous spouse in your situation, I just want to make sure that's on the record. So
Yep.
thank you for that answer. I guess that goes into a question of what to do if we've dated for years, but he hasn't committed to marriage. So in some way, in some way it's asked and answered, but in some way, I guess as an advisor, as an advisory, um, I don't want to use your example of your past situation, but in general, um, would you say that she should wait until he's ready, or should she not
Uh,
your situation, but in general, as a
yeah. Well,
man?
I think open and honest conversations is what's needed.
Right.
They've been dating for a couple of years. The woman is ready to get married. I see no reason why she wouldn't tell the man, I am ready to get married. I love you and I think we should start a life together. I don't see any reason why she wouldn't be honest about that. Ladies, stop playing games, right? Just tell us, because sometimes we're stupid. Sometimes we're just happy and we're happy go lucky. We're going through this life and we're kind of fine with where things are.
Mhm.
We don't realize how much you're longing for that, perhaps.
Mhm.
And it's not that we're trying to keep it from you. We're just stupid sometimes. That's just a human problem. It's
Mhm.
also a man problem.
Mhm.
Okay? And maybe we're a little afraid and we need to have a little push, gently, kindly, lovingly. Like, I want to marry you. Like, when are we going to do this?
Mhm.
And hopefully he'll be able to say, all right, give me, let me think about this. Give me this amount of time, whatever. And if that time comes, maybe you're going to have a little bit of grace and let it go a little bit longer. But there has to be again, put people in your life that can speak rationally to you, because you're emotional and googly eyed and you love this person. Like, you honestly love this person, even if they're not the person you're supposed to be with. You love them
Mhm.
and you don't want to give up on them because this is, she kept coming back to me. I kept winning her back because she knew that I was a good person and she wanted to wait for me to be ready, but she couldn't wait forever.
Mhm.
So just honesty. So there's just no answer to when. Just be honest and have the conversations.
Mhm. So I think you've just touched on something that wasn't on my list, but I know I've heard women ask this before: is how do you know when that person's not for you, even when you love someone?
Well, I mean, hopefully you've got a list of things that you're looking for and you can be honest with, and whether that's written down or in your head. These are the things I want in a person. And if they don't check those boxes, then they're not the right person for you yet. That doesn't mean you can't compromise on some of those things, but to what level are you willing to compromise is going to be a wisdom question. And wisdom is best gained through, I know you're going to be really surprised to hear me say this, putting other people around you who can see more clearly than you can, because we get all googly eyed. Everyone does, not just women, men do too. We can't see clearly. We need help. This is why this is one of the main reasons for the church is to help us do these. But you should have some people, an older couple or a few older couples in your life that can help you, a few girlfriends that are honest and good and Christian and can say, do you realize this person has a temper problem?
Right.
Like, he's angry half the time. The other half, he is pretty awesome. But look how quickly he's getting upset. And you were able to just ignore that because you're so in love. And, every time someone cuts in front of him, he's, want to get out of the car and rip his shirt off and beat the pulp out of that person. Hopefully someone can see that's not the kind of person you want to be with. Or they can't have basic conversations. Every time you have a conversation about marriage, they get all scared and run away. Someone needs to be there to say, hey, have you noticed this? I had a conversation with somebody today who was so jealous of another person. I was talking to the girl, and her guy, who's not really her guy, not committed to her, but just there in her life. But her guy almost had a fight with another guy who she knows. The other guy's married, has no interest. They're just friends. And they don't even hang out. Like, they're not like friends that go out and do stuff together. They just happen to go to the same church. And, he was almost going to fight this person. Like, there's some red flags that you should be able to figure out on your own, but sometimes you can't because you love them. And so you need a pastor like me to come and say, hey, this is not the guy for you. We all need those people in our life who will speak truth.
Right. So that dream team, that group of people that tell you things, but a woman can't get mad at that female friend and say, oh, you're mad that you're single, you're mad because your ex-boyfriend cheated on you. And you're like, no, I've seen that before. And you can't see that he's hollering at you without getting mad or saying you're just single or you're divorced, and really listen, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you can't get mad at, I guess you can get mad at them. If they're a good enough friend, then they'll stick around anyway, but you shouldn't.
And I have one last question for you. And I know you sort of mentioned this in the beginning, not the situation specifically, but I guess where should someone be, like where someone is emotionally or mentally in the context of dating, I guess is where this would fall into. The question is, how do I date after I've left an abusive relationship when I have issues based upon what has happened?
Very cautiously, very grace-filled to yourself, because you're going to probably have some traumatic hits, some things that trigger you. And I feel like you really have to have a lot of grace to yourself. And that's who we're usually the worst person to, right? Is ourself. We hate I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. I did, right? And I've done it even on this particular recording, right? I've said I was such a fool. I shouldn't have done. And I was, and it's okay to think that, but then I have to have a grace on myself. Like, okay, like I was, but this is the reason I was there. And it's not okay. I may have even sinned, but I've got to show grace to myself. And so somebody who's in an abusive relationship.
Well, they were, and now they're dating us.
Right. And now they're in another relationship. There are things that guy is going to do sometimes that are going to trigger that person. It's ridiculous to think that even in a healthy relationship, there's not going to be an argument. There is going to be an argument. And that might trigger some of that emotional pain and stuff from the past and the abusive relationship. He might clench his fist sometime while he's driving a car, right? And that clenched fist is going to remind you of someone else clenching their fists before they punched you.
Right.
Or maybe he's going to be too rough in his sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna want to go a little bit more animalistic, and that's going to trigger someone who has raped you in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. They're all going to happen. Those things are going to happen. Open and honest communication. A good man who wants to be with you, he's going to have to make up that decision, whether that baggage is too much for him or not.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wants to be with you and he's a good person, he's going to work with you in that. He's going to realize that you're traumatized, that there's something. I mean, in truth, your brain is damaged, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Your brain has been hurt because
Mm-hmm.
your heart has been hurt. Your heart is just your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been traumatized by that, and he's going to want to care for you. And he's going to say, okay, I won't do that anymore. So the question was, how do you date in an abused relation?
I guess the person's more so, how do they communicate? Should they communicate it? It obviously, they can't pretend it didn't happen. A lot of times women can be silent. And we can talk about the sexual abuse or physical abuse or whatever abuse, or whether it's emotional abuse. A lot of times women will be silent. I've heard countless stories of women who are married and their husbands have no idea that they had been sexually abused before, and they're dealing with it. They go through depression, they go through a lot of different phases, and they're scared to tell. Well, I don't know if the word is scared. They haven't told their partner. So in this case, when you look at dating, I guess you have that other dynamic of, will he still love me? Should I tell him these things? Or will he take this information and use it against me? Or when he grabbed that drawer cabinet and slammed it, it reminded me of something, but I didn't say anything. I just watched the game with him and cried at night and didn't let him know what I was thinking. So these things happen and they're common.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe the theme of this whole thing that I've been talking about, this wisdom theme,
Mm-hmm.
and this, I mean, is, well, be wise, but just, I feel like we're so afraid to have conversations because we so want to be in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But it's better to be out of the relationship so you can be freed for another one,
Mm-hmm.
than to sit in that, like, oh, but what if he takes this wrong? Well, if he takes this wrong, then that's fine. You found out what you need to find out, that person isn't the best person for you.
Mm-hmm.
So find those things out early. Find out what kind of a person they are. Like, I don't want to share my trauma with him because that'll make him feel. Are you going to start a relationship based on lies?
Mm-hmm.
Not without enough information? How can you know if he's going to love you well? Just tell him.
Mm-hmm.
And be honest with him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's unable to be honest and to do those kind of things, don't marry him. I mean, stay away from those kinds of people. We all have a little bit of mystery in us. That's fine. But there's no room for deception or holding back in a marriage. Honestly, I can't think of anything my wife didn't know about me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a few of the thoughts that I had at different times, like literally thoughts that I had. I didn't tell her every thought because, come on, right? We can't live a life without telling every single thought. And some of the thoughts might have hurt her feelings, so I don't bother to say those things. That's fine. She didn't have to know that I actually did think that dress made her fat. Like, that's fine. Keep those secrets if you want to, but there shouldn't be anything real that's kept back. Those kinds of things. Let the man show you who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So communicate, ladies. Just communicate with us. We're willing to talk to you. I would love for a woman to tell me that. And the truth is that I might go, okay, you've been traumatized in that way. You've been hit. You've been raped, which happens in marriage, by the way. Men rape their wives sometimes. They're not wanting that, and they're having to give sex. Then that's rape. So I might choose that relationship won't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let's be honest, everything's baggage, right? So there's a lot of baggage that's going to come into it. That's baggage that I may choose that I don't want to have.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That doesn't make me a bad guy. It just means I'm looking for a different kind of a person, or someone who's had less of a past.
Mhm.
Okay. There are people who are like, you know what, you're a pastor, I'm not going to go out with you. I understand that. I'm not like, that's my past. That's who I am. Like, that's part of my story. But it's not where you want to be. It's not a bad thing for me to have been a pastor. It's not a bad thing for you to have gone through abuse. I mean, it's a bad thing, but I mean, it's not,
Right.
you're not a bad person because of it.
Mhm.
It's just they're looking for something different. It's
Mhm.
okay. I might like long hair. Someone else likes short hair.
Mhm.
Those are preference kinds of things. I know I probably can't handle somebody who's been majorly abused for 50 years.
Mhm.
I probably just can't do it. I'm weak. And so I know I need somebody that's in a different situation.
Mhm.
I can't be with somebody who's probably in a wheelchair. Doesn't mean they're less of a person or less. That's not I'm not willing to take that particular baggage on myself. Somebody might not be willing to take my baggage of having a slightly thinning hairline and whatever they don't like about me. That's okay. We're all attracted to different things and we all need different things.
Mhm. So I think it's important for people to know in terms of what you said, that it's nothing wrong with you. It's about whether or not it's a good fit for someone
Yeah,
else.
exactly. Is it a
Mhm.
good fit? Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So Jace, I thank you so much. And maybe in the future, if people have more questions, we might bring you on for a segment 2. I appreciate your time. And if anybody wants to follow you on whether it's Facebook or wherever this will be streamed, what would be the best way to find you on social media?
Yeah, you can just Google my name, Jace Broadhurst, um, on any of the social media places, YouTube. You just Google me. You can find everything you want to know about me. Way too much out there.
Mhm.
Interwebs about that. People can follow for my theological stuff if they want. I am actually working on something on the subjects that you're talking about right now,
Mhm.
but it's probably not going to be out for a while. But if people want to read my articles or books on Hebrew Bible, they can do that just by Googling me. So, yep.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody else has been blessed by the sharing of his thoughts on dating and men and all the things that we've shared today. Thank you so much.
Yep. My pleasure.